Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Off-Farm Income Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us here on our YouTube channel for episode number 773. Well, today we are going all the way out to the East Coast, all the way out to Delaware, and we're going to be speaking with Kendall Metz, who's going to be talking to us about developing her chicken business, starting in her freshman year, then being awarded a $1,000 SAE grant, converting to organic, and then coming back to non-organic and growing that chicken business even more to the point where she is now incubating eggs and selling chicks. Really, really interesting stuff. We're going to have that starting for you right now. Joining me today is Kendall Metz, and she is coming to us from Caesar Rodney High School in Camden, Delaware, where she is serving as her chapter's president. And she is also a Silver Award winner at the National Convention this year in poultry production, as well as her state and Eastern Region Star In Agribusiness. Kendall, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, you bet. I'm always excited to speak with students from the East Coast. I live out in Idaho, and while I've been out to the East Coast a number of times and really enjoy my time out there, I always enjoy learning more about what goes on in states that I don't visit that much, and Delaware is top of that list.
Yeah, it's a lot different over here.
It is. Have you ever been out west, out here?
I have not. I've only been, East Coast.
It is a big difference. The first time I went back to the East Coast and saw, just how small the states are, and Delaware, of course, is one of those smaller states, and all the trees and the thunderstorms and the humidity, it's just so different than living out here in the West. So one of these days you'll have to make it out west, and you'll have your mind blown just the way I did when I went out to the East Coast for the first time.
I'm sure I will.
Well, let's do this. I'd love to just ask you a few questions about you to introduce you to our audience. Would it be okay with if I did that?
Yeah, of course.
All right. Well, how old are you now?
I'm 18.
Okay. Now, when you're not at school, when you're at home, are you on a farm, or are you in a town, or something kind of in the middle of those two?
So our house is kind of connected to a farm, but it's not really. It's closer to a neighborhood than it is the actual farm that my family owns. Okay.
All right. So corn and soybeans in Delaware as well.
Yeah, that's really big industry over here.
Interesting. It's funny because we grow plenty of corn out here in Idaho, but no soybeans. And I interview so many students, and once we get over the Rockies and into eastern Colorado and eastern Montana, all of a sudden I start hearing about soybeans all the time, but it goes all the way to the ocean, all the way to Delaware.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
It's one of the biggest industries over here.
Huh. Very cool. All right. Now, how long have you been part of the FFA?
So I started my freshman year, so that'd be about 4 years.
Okay. What brought you into the organization? Why did you want to join?
I just really saw these group of leaders in my ag class that I joined my freshman year. Mm-hmm. And my advisor, Miss Lauren Rusky, also really encouraged me to start participating. And that's how I got started.
So you had actually taken ag as an elective, I would assume, for your freshman year?
Yes.
Okay, so you had taken that, and that's what introduced you to the FFA and made you want to join the organization as a whole. Yeah,
so our first year in Animal Science 1, we have a unit all about FFA, which is a requirement, and that really draws a lot of kids in.
Okay, got it. What caused you to take that ag class in the first place?
I think just really my love for animals. I never really grew up around a lot of animals, just because we never had any. Mm-hmm. Our farm used to be a dairy farm, but no more animals on it. So I just really was drawn to just working in the animal field.
Okay, interesting. So you did that, and obviously it's worked out. Now you're serving as your chapter's president. What made you get involved in being an officer?
Again, I just saw the leadership and how the officers, when I was a freshman, how they really inspired me to do greater things. And so I just thought to take that opportunity, I'd help out other people like me, like these little freshmen and middle schoolers, and give them that opportunity to find their passion.
Okay, very cool. Well, you mentioned one of your FFA advisors. If you could, just mention everybody that's been part of your journey. I'd love to acknowledge all of them.
Yeah, of course. we have Miss Lauren Rusky. That was my Animal Science 1 teacher. My Animal Science 2 and 3 teacher would be Miss Amanda Strauss. I also had another advisor who moved from our school, Mr. Stephen Cook, and then my current agri-science leadership teacher, Mr. Mark Breeding.
Very good. Well, thank you very much for acknowledging those folks, Kendall. And what I want to do for a moment is acknowledge a couple of great sponsors for the Off-Farm Income Podcast. And everybody, I'm going to be talking about Lacrosse Footwear. You can find them at lacrossefootwear.com. Just so proud to have them as a sponsor of this show. We use their Alpha Range boots here on our farm every single day of the year, whether it's winter when it's muddy or snowy or icy, or the summer when I'm out irrigating. I've always got them on, and I'll tell you what, they were the answer to a riddle that I had been trying to solve, to find a neoprene-based rubber boot that was rugged enough to stand up to the work I do every day without getting a leak. And finally, I found those in the Lacrosse, and then about a year and a half later, they became a sponsor of the show, which is just great. And of course, I always love to mention this fact when I do an FFA episode, but Lacrosse Footwear is proud to support the FFA by annually sponsoring 15 scholarships along with 100 jackets as part of the Give the Gift of Blue program, getting those jackets out to kids who might otherwise not be able to get one. I just think that is fantastic. Well, I hope you do too, and I hope you will put some lacrosse on your feet. You can find them at lacrossefootwear.com. And of course, everybody, Powder River Livestock Handling Equipment, just a staple of my youth, hearing about and seeing people having Powder River livestock handling equipment on their farms, on their ranches out in the Central Valley of California where I grew up, and then getting up to Idaho and seeing even more of this equipment up here, and now having Powder River livestock handling equipment, having their squeeze chute and their panels here on our farm for our cattle here in Idaho. We want you to have those on yours as well. They make absolutely the finest livestock handling equipment that you can buy. Reduce stress as much as you can, reduce potential for injury for your livestock and for your operators, and you can find them at powderriver.com. All right, well, Kendall, let's jump back into this, and let's talk about your supervised agricultural experience. I want to learn what you've been doing and hear more about it.
Yeah, of course. So what it really started out was during my freshman year when I was in Miss Rusky's class, she had a poultry unit, and I got really interested in chickens in general. So I asked my parents, and I begged my parents to buy 18 chickens. Uh-huh. So that's where it all started out. And my business was really just selling eggs. Okay. But my next year, my sophomore year, I applied for a national FFA grant, which from various sponsors gives you $1,000 to go towards your SAE. And what I really wanted to do was I wanted to look more into organic production and mostly organic poultry and hatching these chicks, mm-hmm. because poultry is a huge thing in Delaware. So I just wanted to go further in depth with that. And I got the grant, and I was able to use that $1,000 to buy breeding livestock, and now I'm here.
Okay, really cool. So you wanted to get chickens. So was it your freshman year that you got was it 17 chickens?
I got 18 chickens my freshman year. Okay. And these were separate from the organic program that I've done, but they were just really mostly as pets, but really just to sell eggs for my AET. Okay, so you were selling eggs, and that was your first kind of business in terms of agriculture. And then you decided to start hatching eggs as well. Yeah. Okay. So after I got the grant from California Certified Organic Farmers, mm-hmm. which was the sponsor, I bought an incubator, and then I also bought various breeds of poultry of heritage breeds, okay. such as Delawares, not the blue hens, but the other Delawares, Silkies, Wyandottes, Orpingtons, and then I started hatching out chicks. Interesting. Okay. And when you hatched out the chicks, were you growing your flock, or were you selling those to other people who wanted to produce eggs and have chickens on their property? It really depended on the season and what breeds we were looking at. So I would take the chicks that I thought that had the most potential really to become breeders, mm-hmm. That maybe had the the correct like colors on them, and I would keep some of those and I'd raise them to put back into the breeding program, and then the rest of them I would fill out orders for chicks. The chicks that I hatch are mostly for people either to put in shows, because I recommend them for other FFA or 4-Hers, because they're really easy birds to handle, or they're just for people who enjoy the heritage breeds.
Interesting. Now, you mentioned going organic. So what were you doing prior to being awarded that grant, and then what did you change to afterwards that could allow you to be considered organic?
So before, I mostly used, I just used the Tractor Supply feeds, so non-organic like products inside those feeds. But after I got my grant, that allowed me to buy these chickens. And what I did was, because I'm a small business, I can follow the organic standards, and that was a rule in my grant that I got, that I had to follow these organic standards, and I could market my chickens as organic by using organic feed, by making sure that I didn't use any like treated wood on their coops, and other things like that.
Okay. Now, you started this your freshman year. When did you receive the grant? What year was that?
My sophomore year.
Sophomore year. Okay. And by the way, I have judged those grants several years, and I know what it takes. I know what's in those applications to the extent of what you put in there and what it takes to win. So great job on your part, because not everybody gets awarded one, and the students that do really have great applications.
Thank you.
You bet. Well, so tell me what your business looks like today. So you got the grant your sophomore year. Obviously, you started implementing those changes probably that spring on through your junior year, and here you are as a senior. So what does your business look like today?
So after, when you get the grant, you get you have to sign a contract saying that you'll follow these organic standards for a year. So what I did was, with this grant, I did follow those organic standards, and I just really like tried out the business and like see how it worked for me. But now I've decided with my family that we transition back to non-organic. We believe that it was just more profitable, and it was a little bit better for our birds that we decided. Nothing against organic, but so now we're just like a non-organic small hatchery.
Okay. And still selling birds to other people who want to show or have these types of heritage breeds on their places?
Yes.
Okay.
And some people throw them up to be meat birds also.
Oh, okay. So some for meat production as well. Very good. Very interesting. So this led you to being a Star in Agribusiness in Delaware and the Eastern Region. Now, I think this is the first time I've encountered this. When you talk about the Eastern Region, that's not just the Eastern Region of Delaware, but that's the Eastern Region of multiple states there on the East Coast. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
So what the Eastern Region would encompass, if you know about the Big E, which is basically this really huge fair up north, and I believe it encompasses from Virginia up, basically, and every state has a representative that their state who got a Star in Agribusiness.
Okay.
They all go to this event. They all go to Big E, and then we all compete in an interview for the Eastern Region Agribusiness.
Oh, wow. So that whole entire Eastern Region, you were Delaware's representative, and you won it.
Yes.
Congratulations. Yes. What an accomplishment.
Thank you.
You bet.
It was a really fun experience.
Very cool. And then this carried you forward to the national convention where you won silver. Is that right?
So what really happened was Big E, the applications for proficiency awards for the national level are you kind of submit them after you get your state awards in the proficiency area. So at the same time that I was looking into Big E and finishing Big E applications, that's when National FFA really announced that I won it. I didn't go to convention for the proficiency award, but it was something that was awarded nationally.
Very cool. Well, good for you. A couple of great accomplishments there, and And man, that's really fascinating. Where is the Big E? Does the location change every year, or is it always in the same place?
I believe it's always in the same place.
Where was it when you went?
So it was in Massachusetts.
Oh, okay. So it was held in Massachusetts. So yeah, that's the entire. That's from Virginia all the way up. I mean, except for Maine and New Hampshire and Vermont, which are north of there, but I'm sure they were probably included as well. Really cool.
They were included. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Well, here you are. You're a senior in high school, so you just got a couple months left of high school. What's going to be next for you after you finish?
Well, right now I am applying to be a state officer, so that is in the near future. I am also planning on going to Delaware State University. I've applied and been accepted, and I'll be majoring in agriculture education.
Very cool. So you want to get that ag ed degree. Are you planning on returning to the classroom, or are you going to do something else with that degree?
I really am planning on returning and being able to teach people like my advisors taught me, something that's really inspired me.
Very cool. Well, that is just a wonderful legacy for them, that you want to do that based on the inspiration they give you. That's wonderful. Well, Kendall, let's do this. Before we wrap up the interview, I want to ask your advice for other students out there. So you talked about begging your parents so you could get those first 18 chickens. So let's talk about that for a second. What is the difference between just wanting something just because you want it and being determined to get something that you know you can do something great with, like what you've done with your poultry business? What advice would you have for students about that?
I would really advise them, especially with something with their parents, when you're passionate about something, like you really feel it instinctually, and you don't stop thinking about this thing until you're able to achieve it. And for the chickens, I really showed my parents. I told them that this is something I'm really, really passionate about, and I showed dedication through many months, just doing my research on what I'm passionate about and putting it all together and just really taking it to heart and showing my true emotions about it.
That is great. Well, that's a good piece of advice, and I think that's true, right? You want to, you know, as a kid, you grow up, you ask your parents for a lot of things, and they say yes to some things, they say no to others. But when you get really serious about something, there is a way to demonstrate to them that, no, this is different than just me wanting something. I am really serious about doing something with this particular product or issue or whatever that may be.
Oh, yeah. I had asked for a dog for many, many years, but when it came to these chickens, I think I showed them that I really, really liked it.
Gotcha. All right. Well, Kendall, this has been great. Thank you so much for coming on today and sharing this with us.
Thank you for having me. This was really awesome.
Well, thank you for being here, everybody. Really enjoy having you here. And as always, enjoy your journey to the ultimate lifestyle business, agriculture.